Come with me as I go to my local yarn festival, but there's a caveat. I'm on a yarn ban, so I'm going to have to resist buying all of the pretty yarn that I'm going to see today. I have a feeling this is not going to go well. Today I'm going to the Spring into Wool Festival in Leeds, and as you heard in the introduction, there is a bit of a problem because I'm on a self-imposed yarn ban. My stash has become quite substantial over the past year to 2 years, and I've not been keeping up with using the yarn that I've been buying. So my initial plan for 2025 was to do a whole stash busting series. However, I've not been very well. It's now April for basically the whole of 2025. I've not been very well and I've spent about 80% of my days in bed. So I haven't been able to do much filming, much knitting and much crochet. Knitting specifically is really flaring up my joint problems at the minute. So I'm on a yarn ban and I'm about to go to a yarn festival with loads of pretty yarn that I'm going to need to resist buying. If there is something special that's really special and unique and catches my eye, I may treat myself. But the main thing we're going to shop for at this yarn festival is hand-dyed fibre. I've been on a spinning kick. Spinning is one of the few crafts that I've been able to do that I can do laying down in bed and it doesn't flare up my health problems because I have an e-spinner. So all I have to do is lay back and do this basically, which I've been really enjoying. So I've been on a spinning kick, I've been doing a lot of spinning. So hand-dyed fibre I'm absolutely shopping for, and I will show you my haul of that at the end of this video. And if I buy yarn, I will show you that as well. I will be completely honest with you if I do end up breaking my yarn ban. The other thing I want to check out about Spring into Wool is if it's wheelchair accessible. I'm an ambulatory wheelchair user, so I can walk short distances, but I need my power wheelchair when I'm out of the house, sort of in shops, going to appointments, seeing friends, things like that. So I am a wheelchair user. I've been to 2 other yarn festivals in Yorkshire. I've been to Yarndale and I've been to Yorkshire Yarn Fest. Yarndale, although they say it's wheelchair accessible, I had a lot of issues using my wheelchair in that venue. I talked about it a lot in my last yarn festival vlog that I'll link at the end of this video if you're interested. I had a lot of issues there, so I'm not going to be going back to Yarndale, but Yorkshire Yarn Fest was really wheelchair accessible. The website for Spring into Wool says it's wheelchair accessible and it's in a grammar school, so we're going to see if that's actually true. So yeah, anyways, let's go jump in the car and head off to Leeds for Spring into Wool Yarn Festival.
Is there a sign for Spring into Wool? I can't see one.
We've got sheep, cow, pony, and people.
Portworth again, Liam. I have a bit of a thing for Portworth. Merino and 30% soy.
Put it on KC and that tells it to engage the punch card, and as I pull that across it will select the needles relative to holes and then release the punch card so that it will start moving from now on. We're going to do 2 colours, so put the second colour into the feeder and this is the switch to tell it it's 2 colour. And
with a bit of luck.
Bit of luck, yeah.
So I'm back from Spring into Wool and I want to show you what I bought, and then we'll have a quick chat about sort of what I got up to and my general experience at Spring into Wool Yarn Festival in Leeds. So we'll start with my yarn haul that doesn't have any yarn in it. Yes! I didn't buy any yarn. I wasn't even tempted. I think what I strategically did is if I saw yarn that I liked, I looked at it from a distance. I didn't get close up, I didn't touch it. So that really helped. And I just thought, oh, that's nice. I'll look at it from a distance and appreciate it and not get tempted to buy it. And that strategy worked. I have bought some spinning fibre that I'll show you though. I nearly bought some handmade ceramic buttons as well. They were really beautiful, but I just don't have a current project that I'm currently working on that I think those ceramic buttons would work well on. So I've decided that I didn't buy them, and I can always get some in the future. You know, I'm going to these yarn festivals about twice a year at the minute, so it's not like I won't have the opportunity in the future. So yeah, anyways, I'll get to my haul. So I've got my little bag, here, and I'll show you my hand-dyed spinning fibre that I bought. So the first two are from the same dyer. So this is from Dina's Home of Crafts, and this fibre is 100 grams of 100% Polworth. So Polworth is a breed of sheep that is not too rustic. I found that spinning with rustic yarns makes my fingers quite sore, but spinning with quite slippery fibres like pure merino or like a merino silk blend, I'm not good enough spinner to have control. I feel like the machine is pulling it out of my hands. I found Polworth is actually my favourite. 100% Polworth yarn has been my favourite spin so far. So yeah, so this colour is called Golden Hour, and you can see it's green and orange. And it's really beautiful space dyed. It's going to spin up so lovely. I might try and spin this with a braid of fibre that I've got in my stash. I can't see it at the minute, but yeah, I will show that when I get back to doing podcasts. And then the other shade I got is called Giveny. And this is again 100% Polworth. And this is beautiful teal colours, tealy green, which I really like. I really like that there's quite a lot of white in her, which is this one as well, that's got quite a lot of white space. I've noticed when I spin up yarn that's got quite a lot of white space, it makes the colour lighter once you get the overall yarn, so it won't be sort of this dark green all over. It will be more of like a paler teal colour, like a duck eggy colour, I imagine this will spin up to be. So I kind of like that. I like that variation. That's kind of something that I look for in some of my hand-dyed fibre. Sometimes I don't want that, but it is really interesting to spin up. So yeah, so these are again from Dina's Home of Crafts. If I have any links, I'll pop them in the description. And then another one that I bought, so this one is coming apart a little bit, but this is from Tyne and Floyd, and this stall had so much fibre, but the one that I went for is this kind of semi-solid pink. It's a lovely pink. I do love my pink. I'll bring it up close so you can see. So this is 70% merino and 30% soy. So I asked the lady that was at the stall about it, and she said that she likes dyeing soy and doesn't like dyeing bamboo, because bamboo, when you dye it, it doesn't take the dye very well and it often stays white when you dye it, whereas the soy spins just like bamboo, so it's quite slippery and smooth, but it takes the dye. So if you can see, if I can try and find a bit to hold up to the camera. So if you can see kind of the merino in the background, and then here is a shot of that soy fibre that's been blended in. So it has a different texture, and it's just, I think this will be a really interesting spin for me. I have spun a merino bamboo blend before, really early on in my spinning journey, so it'd be interesting to try it again. But yeah, I bought this purely because it just seemed like an interesting blend to me with that 30% soy. So yeah, so that is from Tyne and Floyd. And then the last braid of fibre that I bought was from Wonderful Wool, and I have ordered some off of their Etsy shop before, so it was nice to see them in person. And this is another braid that I bought because of the blend. So it doesn't say the percentages, but it says it's a merino silk and flax blend. And I have not spun with flax before, and it felt really interesting. It felt like an interesting blend. So I'll show you. Again, this has got quite a lot of white space in it, like I was saying with the other braid. That's something that I find quite interesting to spin. And then if I show you up close, can you see that flax fibre running through the wool there? And then I think that there is a bit of the silk. So these are really interesting for me to spin and to just have a play with, more for sort of experimentation, just trying different fibres, because I've discovered that a lot of rustic wools, and I don't mean like really rustic like a Shetland wool, I've actually had issues spinning Corriedale and Blueface Leicester, which aren't that rustic, but they make my fingers really red and sore. I have really sensitive skin in general, and I generally struggle with rustic yarn anyway, so it makes sense that I would struggle with rustic fibres. So I'm interested to see if I can spin flax, because it's got a very different texture to wool. Anyways, this isn't a spinning podcast or anything like that, so I won't go too much more in depth, but yeah, so that's my final braid of fibre that I bought. So let's have a chat about my experience at Spring Into Wool as a wheelchair user. Fine, all on one level. There was a ramp to get up past, like 2 steps up to the main entrance. Was absolutely fine navigating in a wheelchair. The only difficulty I had is it was really busy in the sports hall, in like the main room, when we first got there at like lunchtime, and it was so crowded that I thought it was going to run over someone's feet. And then the aisles, this felt like there was a lot of stools crammed into that room, so the aisles weren't the widest that I've had. So I would say yes, it's wheelchair accessible. There were plenty of people there in like rollators and like mobility scooters and things. So I would say yeah, it is wheelchair accessible, but just be mindful that if it is really crowded, then you might have troubles navigating through crowds. I did have a look as well. They don't have an accessibility hour. So when I went to Yorkshire Yarn Fest on the Friday, they had an hour where people who, for example, have something like autism and they prefer to not be around crowds, they had an hour like that. And Spring Into Wool doesn't have that. I think that would be a really helpful thing to add on one of the days. I think that would be helpful for someone like me who is in a wheelchair, who's struggled with the crowds and the narrow aisles. I think that would be really helpful. But literally, apart from that, was absolutely fine. I didn't use the toilets when I was there, but I could see there were disabled toilets. So yeah, would recommend if you're in a wheelchair or have mobility needs, Spring Into Wool is fine. Nowhere near as bad as Yarndale was. Yarndale was terrible. So yeah, recommend it for that. It was a lot bigger than I was expecting. So it's held at a grammar school in Leeds, and it was a lot bigger than I was expecting. I think because I heard it was a school and it was going to be in like a sports hall in the assembly hall and in the school, I thought it was going to be a lot smaller than it was, and I got there and it was probably on a similar size to Yorkshire Yarn Fest in terms of number of stalls and number of vendors. It also had a bit more of a bigger range of vendors as well, which I found really helpful. Like there were non-yarn vendors there, if that makes sense. So there were ones that were like selling like fabric or just general craft supplies. There was like beads, there was felting, there was ceramics, things like that. So that was really nice that there was a bit more of a range of vendors, as well as you could also get commercial yarn, which at a lot of yarn festivals it tends to focus on more of the artisan independently hand-dyed yarn, and there was a fair amount of that, but there was some commercial yarn there as well. There was a stand selling like secondhand magazines, and there were like multiple guilds there. So there was the Bradford Spinning and Dyeing and Weaving Guild, there was Knitting and Crochet Guild, there was the Women's Institute, and there was the Machine Knitters of Yorkshire, or Yorkshire Machine Knitters, something like that. We got chatting to them for quite a while as well. Liam, my partner, he is big into like retro computers, and they had like a retro flatbed knitting machine there, and he'd never seen one before, with like the punch cards feeding in to do the patterns of the knitting, so he found that really interesting. So we chatted to them for a bit as well, and she showed us kind of how the flatbed knitting machine works. So yeah, so overall I had a really good afternoon there, doing a little bit of shopping, a bit of browsing. It was a nice venue as well. It was, because it's a grammar school, it was a lot nicer than like the school that I went to when I was school aged. And it was quite funny that we went to the school cafeteria for our lunch and we asked them and they just served the same food that they served the kids, and we had like jacket potato and salad. So yeah, it was a nice day. It was a nice spring day. It was fairly sunny. Everybody was really lovely that we spoke to. Yeah, so yeah, I would highly recommend Spring into Wool. I didn't try out any of their workshops because I know with how my health's been at the minute I wouldn't have been able to sit there for a few hours and learn a new skill, but their workshops looked really good and they were really good value for money. A lot of the times the workshops at yarn festivals are often quite expensive, understandably so, because they're small groups and it's someone's time and you have the supplies and stuff, but some of these workshops were like 20 or 30 quid for like 2 hours. That's really good value for money, and I think the people hosting those workshops are kind of underselling themselves a little bit. They could charge a little bit more, but that's just my opinion. So yeah, I had a really good time and I think I'll be going back to Spring into Wool. So thank you so much for watching this vlog. If you're new to my channel, I make crochet tutorials and craft vlogs here on YouTube, and I also sell crochet patterns over on Etsy and Ravelry. I'll put some of my details down in the description if you fancy checking out some more of my content, and I'll link a video up here now of when I went to Yorkshire Yarn Festival back in November. That was a bit more of an in-depth vlog than this vlog has been, but yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video and I'll see you again soon.